Hey guys, Miss White here. I am just here to kind of walk you through the first section of your slides for this week. This week we get into dealing with the battles of World War II, and I divided this up since this was a 6-year war. There are a lot of battles, so I divided it up between the European theater, the African theater, and the Pacific theater. Your first part of this assignment, though, focuses on Europe. I figured let's get Europe out of the way first. It's one that most people are familiar with in comparison to the other two theaters. So briefly, I will talk to you right now about the European theater battles. So you'll go through, your assignment this week is you're working on the worksheet that follows the notes, and these are the notes. So again, right now you're just focusing on the European theater. When I say theater, I'm talking about a section of the war, like a regional section of the war. I'm not talking about like Broadway musical, although that would be kind of interesting. So we're talking about the European part of World War II because it is a world war. So over 30 nations were involved in this conflict. We're going to focus on them. I put them in chronological order. So if they seem like they're kind of all over the place, the war was all over the place. So again, briefly, we talk about the Battle of Britain. I won't go into too much detail here. This is mostly, it says Britain. The Nazis were bombing all part of the UK. Remember, the UK, the United Kingdom, is Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. And the Nazis did bomb a large portion of most of the British Isles there for a while, but they mostly focused on London, war strategy, and it just kind of makes sense not to try and make sense of a war here, but you target the most popular city like London, you kind of buckle the rest of the country at that point. The Battle of Britain was a battle mostly fought in the skies between air forces. You had the German Luftwaffe, which was just a very fun word to say, and the Royal Air Force, or the RAF of England. Anyway, here are some pictures of some fighter planes. They call these air fights dog fights, which is kind of fun to say as well. Dog fights, up in the sky. The best part about this, I'm taking these off because of my weird glare. The best part about the Battle of Britain, I'll just tell you some fun facts about it. Most people, including my dude Winston Churchill, I feel for him the same way I feel about Joseph Stalin, Joey Stalin, so love him. A lot of people in England during this time would actually go out on the roofs of buildings and spectate air battles happening. Obviously, this is dangerous to do because what goes up must come down, and if fighter pilots are being shot out of the sky, they're come crashing into your park, your picnic, buildings, whatever. That's not fun. But people, including Winston Churchill, my dude there, pictured there on the left with the cigar in his mouth, what a man. He would literally just spectate battles, like take out some binoculars and just watch, instead of going into shelters. As he's basically the leader of England at this time, and everyone's like, dude, get inside, and Churchill's like, nah, I'm gonna watch this, which is kind of cool. So pictured here is Churchill on the left, and the guy in charge of the Nazi Luftwaffe, Hermann Goring. This guy is a POS. He is crappy. He is a terrible human. We will get to him later. At the end of the war, there was something called the Nuremberg trials, which charged Nazi officials for war crimes. This dude was one of them, and I think he ended up killing himself, but we'll get to that later. So that's basically the Battle of Britain. There's a dude, that's not Churchill, just a random guy looking up to the sky, just watching a battle. So that's kind of cool. And of course, this famous poster here, Keep Calm and Carry On, was created during the war here in England, hence the crown, right? There's some damage, whatever. I'll let you guys explore it later. People slept in subway tunnels for it. It was insane. Again, I'll let you guys explore that later. Operation Barbarossa is my personal favorite thing. This is the thing that I studied the most in college. Which should be shocking to none of you because it has to do with Stalin. My obsession had to start somewhere. Operation Barbarossa is when the Nazi troops invaded Russia in June of 1941. So this is 2 years into the war. Remember, they signed a non-aggression pact together, Hitler and Stalin. Shocking to hopefully none of you, Hitler broke that. But Stalin was completely prepared as well because, trust issues, daddy issues, whatever. So anyway, Operation Barbarossa is just a huge name of the Nazis invading Russia. All right. Again, I'll let you read this later. Hitler studied Napoleon like to a T. Napoleon, if you remember, we learned about him. Great military leader. You know me, I don't say many good things about the French, but Napoleon was pretty good. And so Hitler knew that, studied him, whatever, and made the same mistake. You just don't invade Russia, my dude. So, of course, I got some memes for you to look at. They're really funny. Siege of Leningrad, really quick. This is when the Nazis closed in on the city of Leningrad, which we know it as St. Petersburg. Anyway, cannibalism ensued. The Nazis were trying to kill all of the civilians in St. Petersburg, Russia. So again, I'll let you continue there. There's cannibalism that took place. When you're being starved out, it only makes sense, right? So, right. Anyway, there's a cannibalistic poem for your viewing pleasure. My personal favorite is the Battle of Stalingrad. This is the largest and bloodiest battle in all of human history. Wars have been going on since the dawn of time, and the Battle of Stalingrad was easily the most destructive battle. Which makes it very interesting. Now, it kills me, I'm trying not to, these slideshows are already so big, me, I get carried away and I start ranting, and before you know it, I have like 200 slides on here. So I tried my best to just put only the important info, but the Battle of Stalingrad is awesome. This is where Stalin made orders that every man, woman, and child, regardless of your age, had to participate in the battle because it took place in the streets of Stalingrad, which is now the city of Volgograd, Russia. I don't expect you to remember that. But it was fought through apartment buildings, businesses, churches, whatever. It was the battlefield. And if you refused or you were seen running away instead of joining the fight, Stalin gave orders that you were to be shot on sight and killed. So it was and the reason why he cared so much about this is because the city has his name in it, Stalingrad, right? So Stalin's like, do not embarrass me, do not humiliate me. You will fight these Nazi bastards until death do you part, right? So this was a very intense battle because, again, of all of the people that were engaged in it. We got some video clips here. That one's not that graphic. I will warn you when it does get graphic. Now we're getting to the most popular one, D-Day. Overall, the entire operation was called Operation Overlord, which is super cool. It sounds very cool. Anyway, D-Day is June 6, 1944. This is a turning point in the European theater. This is when a bunch of Allied soldiers, so Americans, Canadians, British, Australians, this is when we invaded France to try and liberate France because France got taken over by the Nazis within the first year of the war. So we had to rescue France again. So anyway, this is the start of us trying to liberate Nazi-controlled Europe here. We've all seen this. Now, this picture, I will explain this to you. If you look at it right up here, right, it looks like nothing. It looks almost like a rocky cliff. The Nazi soldiers were up there. So this is a huge military advantage. While our troops, the Americans, Canadians, Australians, we were getting off the boat, going there, onto the beach. This is a beach. Right? The Nazis were up here, and that is a huge military advantage. You always want to be higher than your enemy. So the Nazis were literally waiting there with machine guns. So the second that these boats pulled up close enough and this part went down, because, it's a boat, so you have four sides. Well, one of the sides went down to let the troops out. That was it. So you'll see in the clip here, a lot of soldiers didn't even make it to the beaches. They were shot immediately the second the boat opened up to let the troops out. Some people also drowned. Look at those backpacks of supplies. That's heavy. And with all the craziness of people falling out of the boat and getting killed, some people drowned. So again, a lot of people didn't make it to the beaches. So anyway, I'll let you read the fun facts later. This is super famous. Look at this. This is a beach. Okay. we'll talk about Eisenhower. I'll let you read that later. There's Eisenhower. He eventually became president of the United States. He was general at this time, and he's basically like, the eyes of the world are on you right now, so don't mess up. This is a clip from Saving Private Ryan, as promised to you guys earlier. I will warn you, this movie is rated R. It is a war movie. You will see whenever I show you videos or some intense photos, I will warn you of the graphic content. This is one of them. Normally, I don't really care for war movies because sometimes they tend to be inaccurate. Saving Private Ryan, along with 1917 about World War I, are pretty accurate in terms of depicting battle. And this clip is one of the opening scenes from this movie that depicts D-Day. So anyway, watch it. It's great. It's phenomenal. Do I want to talk about this? This is my favorite one, Battle of the Bulge. I'll let you guys read that later. Those are dead bodies. Yep. So I just want to warn you about this. We're talking about the battles now of war. World War II, we all know, is the most destructive war in all of human history. So things are going to get graphic. And I'm warning you here. The firebombing of Dresden is a super important event. And it's also, had we lost the war, this is a huge war crime that the Americans and the British did. Basically, the Americans and the British divided up Germany. One will attack at night, one will attack at day. And just get rid of the Germans. And this was entirely to kill their morale. This Dresden in Germany was not a huge industrial city. The whole point of America and England doing this bombing campaign was to just kill them. That's it. And again, had we lost the war, this would be a huge war crime, but we won, so people looked past it. But basically what we did is we dropped a lot of incendiary bombs onto the city of Dresden in Germany. Incendiary bombs are just flame bombs. So the second they explode, fire goes everywhere. Okay. We dropped a lot of these bombs on Dresden. And so people, obviously it was a bombing campaign. So people were in their bomb shelters. But the heat of the incendiary bombs was so intense that it wasn't even safe to leave their bomb shelters. So these people literally baked to death. Baked, like in an oven, baked. So warning, the following photos are actually quite graphic. And so if you don't like them, just skip ahead a few slides. But it's history. Ignoring it is dangerous, right? As we're coming to find out nowadays, you can't ignore history. So there you see is the city of Dresden afterwards. Those are dead bodies, victims, right? And there are people with their flesh straight up burned off of them. Dead, of course. So this is a primary source here in this link. No videos, I don't know if there are any pictures, but it is very interesting to just read what people who survived this, if they were lucky enough. I don't really have a whole lot to say about the Battle of Berlin. I am almost done here talking. The Battle of Berlin was the final battle of the European theater here. It is basically when the commies of Russia invaded Berlin, the capital city of Germany. And this was another battle. Hitler was running out of soldiers. Okay, and up until this point in the war, Hitler had convinced the people of Germany that they were winning the war and everything was fine. And hooray, yay Nazis, right? So when the commies invaded, when the Russians invaded Berlin, people of Berlin were like, wait, what? That's what you get for listening to stupid Hitler. But this battle, a lot of the German soldiers were already dead. So Hitler had to engage the Hitler Youth. Remember, you could be as young as 10 years old and be in the Hitler Youth. So kids as young as 10 years old were given assault rifles and told to shoot communists during the Battle of Berlin. Very extreme. They lost this battle, and on April 30th of 1945, Hitler committed suicide in his bunker, and also a bunch of other people as well as the guy in charge of propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, which we'll talk more about him next week when we get to the actual Holocaust. But here's the most famous picture of Berlin with the Russian flag, the Soviet Union flag, hanging over the city, to kind of show you, like, we liberated this city. It's really cool. When I went to Berlin for my honeymoon, they have a giant statue dedicated to the Soviet soldiers that saved Berlin from Nazi control. I mean, it's huge. We saw it and it was just like out of this world. So the Germans still thank Russia for saving them despite the whole Cold War thing that's happening. Husband. Anyway, that's it. We'll stop there at the African Theater. Don't go past this. I'll give you a worksheet for this on Wednesday because there are so many slides on the European Theater. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Yeah, how do I stop this thing?